Okay, I just want to do a quick video on Heir Leedskalnin. Heir Leedskalnin was the son of Rudolf Leedskalnin, who was an older brother of Edward Leedskalnin. The first time Heir really shows up in all of the Edward Leedskalnin story is around 1950. About a year before Ed passed away. Heir Leedskalnin did not even know about his uncle Edward Leedskalnin, supposedly, until he read about him in a magazine article. What happens is he heads out, goes and visits Ed, sees the whole property. Ed gives him $50, is what is stated, and then Heir heads back out home. So around a year later, in December, Ed passes away. This will shows up, and it leaves it wide open for a number of Ed's supposed relatives to inherit Rockgate. I'll go into some of these older newspaper articles. Once again, all this can be found at periodica.lv. 10/10/1970. He made the will on November 24th, 1951, during his last illness, bequeathing his belongings to his brother's sons without mentioning names. Ed never spoke about his relatives and did not leave any papers mentioning the names of brothers or any other relatives. Yet among the papers he left behind, someone noticed a will dated April 12, 1920, and made in Reedsport, Oregon. With this will, he bequeathed his property to his father, Andrew Leedskalnin, if he were still living. The third brother, Rudolf, was married, and in his marriage, the only child was Heir Leedskalnin. After entering the United States, Heir Leedskalnin visited his uncle Edward Leedskalnin's house, where until then no strangers had been allowed in. Heir Leedskalnin studied at the University of Latvia and obtained a degree in road engineering, later becoming the head of road engineers of the Riga region. The court recognized Heir Leedskalnin as the only heir. A year later, the Dade District Court handed down an inheritance case, ordering the property left to his nephew, Heir Leedskalnin. Half a year later, in the summer of 1953, the property was purchased by Julius Levin of Chicago. 10/10/1970. One of the witnesses to this succession trial, Otto Oliva, now lives in New York. He tells about the Heir to Coral Castle. I met Heir Leedskalnin immediately after the First World War, when after the war I took over the management of Jungle Bean Gob's pharmacy. There, in May 1917, I met my wife, and I had a wedding in September. Then we bought our own pharmacy near Valka. In the summer, while visiting my wife's parents' home, I met their neighbors, the closest of whom was Leedskalnin's. At that time, Heir Leedskalnin was still a pupil, but later married and acquaintance of mine. Somehow, Heir had found a German illustrated magazine describing the life of Edward Leedskalnin and showing the miracles of his work and his achievements he had done around the city or homestead of Florida. Heir Leedskalnin and his family left for the United States in 1948 and ran around Carnland State from where he had been on bail. he met his father's brother for the first time. The meeting was not particularly sincere, as it had been about 40 years, which Ed had spent alone and at work, only rarely leaving the house to buy food. Then the owner of the grocery store found Ed dead one day. His papers also contained Harry's letter with his Carolina address. It told Harry his uncle's death. Harry Leedskalnin also arranged the burial of Edward and other things, also applying as a sole heir in this land. The right to inheritance had to be proved, because otherwise the property would be acquired by the Coral Castle. Its founder, Florida state. It would have all went to the state and very possibly would have been bulldozed. Let's see what else we got here. The trial was held in Miami. Before the trial, the lawyer took witnesses to Rockgate Park, as it was then called. The first impression was not good. It seemed like a desert, infinitely hot, sand, and very little hanging. The garden was unkempt and supposedly thrown. Now, despite all the miraculous formations, it resembled a cemetery. Now, Edward Leedskalnin did not trust the banks, so he had all his money stashed around the place. After the inheritance was granted, Harry Leedskalnin had discussions about what to do with it. The court costs, the funds needed to make the property proper, make it a tourist destination, you got to fix it all up. Also, Rockgate, they decided, could not be inhabited by family people, nor were there any other opportunities to rent an apartment nearby. There was just nowhere to live. What's Harry going to do? So he's got this property now. He's got a family. His family's already living somewhere else. You can't move them out to Florida. There's no other place to live around Rockgate. And you can't live at Rockgate like Ed did. After the sale of Coral Castle, Harry Leedskalnin and his family moved from Caroline to Grand Rapids. I've heard they bought a beautiful house there. So Harry Leedskalnin took the money from Rockgate and opened a mechanic shop and a gas station. But he suffered losses due to inexperience. Could have been a dream of his, but he wasn't very experienced in doing what he wanted to do there. His health was not good. Soon after, he also died of heart disease, leaving his spouse Mary and an adult daughter who married soon after her father passed away. That's the story of New Yorker Otto Lever about Coral Castle, Rockgate, and Harry Leedskalnin. 13/10/1956. So he had built his own house in Grand Rapids and had recently acquired a petrol station with a repair shop along with his son-in-law. The deceased was suffering from a heart attack and had recently gone to a hospital where he was suddenly divorced. The deceased was buried in the Woodlawn Cemetery in the Latvian section on the 29th of September. It's unfortunate we didn't hear more about Harry Leedskalnin, because I wonder what him and Ed talked about when Harry went to visit him. How long did Harry stay? Thank you for all your time. I hope you have a great day.